Virgin Most Powerful Radio, sharing the gospel with clarity and charity.
I'm a soldier for Christ. I'm a soldier for Christ. I'm a soldier. No, they'll never take us under, because we're bringing truth like thunder. Raining on your speakers like a ton of bricks. Hold the cross high, cause we're Catholics. Fight the good fight with the truth. Stand tall with the truth. I'm a warrior for Christ. I'm in love with the truth. Love God, save souls, slay error. Go stronger. Go stronger.
Straight Talk Catholicism. We invite you to this holy hour of power, the Terry and Jesse Show. This is high energy Catholic radio, two Catholics with a PhD in common sense. This is where we engage the culture of death with prayer, fasting, and full contact Catholicism. I'm reporting for duty. Terry, what about you?
I am reporting for duty, Jesse, and I'm delighted because we've got a special guest coming on after the first segment. The theme is going to be, how should a Catholic vote in the presidential election coming up in just 2 months? In other words, what principles are there? And Steve Ray has done some research on it. I thought folks would like to hear from him. And also, we're going to cover what Bishop Strickland has been saying, who's one of our shows here at Virgin Most Powerful. He's been speaking out boldly on the pro-life side. And I just think that it's wonderful to have a bishop who just tells it like it is. And we're going to also talk a little bit about how he's supporting, Father Heilman, Father
James Altman.
Altman, and what he's been doing.
Wisconsin.
Right. And we're also going to talk about some Catholic lobby groups that are saying things like, you can't vote for Donald Trump. Well, I want to look at what their reasons are so that you can evaluate, are they right? Well, there's lots of here that we're going to be talking about.
Every 4 years, you have the progressive wing in the Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. This organization is called Network Advocates for Justice, inspired by Catholic sisters, and they're all habitless, Terry.
Of course, they look like real estate agents.
Yeah, so that's always a problem.
It's a red flag.
That's a huge red flag.
Yeah, that's my take. And so it's going to be a good show. But before we do that, Jesse, today's reading, the first reading at Mass, man, it really hit me, and I called you on it, and I said, yes, I think we should do it because it speaks about our own time right now, and God, the gospel, the readings always talk about our own time, but I just thought specifically this would be a good thing to talk about, Jess.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, the first reading, it's, Terry, because we got a problem in our country, and let's just be honest, it's even amongst Catholics, it's called serial polygamy.
Yes.
It's one spouse at a time, one wife at a time.
Right.
St. Paul talks about it in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 25 to 31, because we also have another movement. People are always trying to say, get rid of celibacy because celibacy leads to child molestation, or that's completely false. It's lack of chastity,
exactly,
which leads to just child molestation and sexual perversions with adults. It's lack of chastity. In fact, chastity is the solution to the sexual perversion that we find in our culture and in the church. So St. Paul writes to the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians 7:25 to 31, he says this, brothers and sisters. And this is something just to take note of, because sometimes people take liberties at Holy Mass and they'll say sisters and brothers. That's not what the Bible says. If you notice, every time the genders are mentioned in Scripture, it's always male first, female, because that's the order of Adam and Eve, the order of creation. But there's obviously people that are modernists. They'll read this and they'll invert it during Mass. And I'm saying that's not what it says. It doesn't say sisters and brothers. You changed it. You can't be changing what God has written. It's there for a reason, because it's supposed to give us order. So St. Paul goes on to say, I have no commandment from the Lord, but I give my opinion as to one who by the Lord's mercy is trustworthy. So this is what I think best because of the present distress, that it is a good thing for a person to remain as he is. Mm-hmm. What's he talking about? He's talking about single and chaste. Why? This is what Scott Hahn calls realized eschatology. Guess what? Everybody in heaven is going to be chaste and unmarried. Everybody's going to tap into that state of innocence and perfection and virginity, just like when they were born. especially post-baptism. And so this is what St. Paul's talking about. He's saying this is the preferred state if you feel that you can follow this like he's following it. He writes, he says, "Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek a separation. Are you free of a wife? Then do not look for a wife. If you marry, however, you do not sin, nor does an unmarried woman sin if she marries. But such people will experience affliction in their earthly life. And I would like to spare you that." What does St. Paul just say? He just saying, when you get married, you're going to pick up a huge cross. Just ask anybody who's married. That's what he just said right now.
It's true.
And he goes, I want to spare you that affliction. I want to spare you that pain. I mean, this is very practical. And he says, "I tell you, brothers, the time is running out. From now on, let those having wives act as if not having them. Those weeping as not weeping, those rejoicing as not rejoicing, those buying as not owning, those using the world as not using it fully. For the world in its present form is passing away." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Wow.
St. Paul, the last couple of verses, what he's talking about there is the understanding. It was called self-detachment. Is that little by little, we're supposed to unpeel ourselves from this world so that we can prepare ourselves for heaven. Theologians generally call that the unitive aspect of Christianity, where somebody is so united to God and so detached from the world that all they want to do is what God wants. As St. Paul says, "For me to live is Christ and to die is gain." And that's what St. Paul is talking about here. And he's even talking about little by little, we have to unpeel ourselves even from the married state, because we have to realize that in heaven, there is no marriage or being given over in marriage. All of us are going to return to that original state of innocence where God will be all in all and all that we need.
Jesse, good commentary. I want to, before I bring Bishop Sheen in, I want to remind everybody here at the Sacred Heart Chapel, we have 3 evenings of recollection outside. It'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, September 14th to the 16th. We have Mass, Confession, Adoration, starting at 6 o'clock, and we'd love to have you come. Just come to the chapel. It's a week. It's next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for the work of the holy angels, and the theme is going to be on Saint Michael, the archangel. So it'll be very interesting. Oh, and it is free. Yeah, you can welcome to come. Just show up. Now let's bring the smartest guy into the room. Full Sheen ahead, as I say. Jess, this is on humility. You and I both need humility. Everybody needs humility because humility is truth, and that's what sets us free. Here's what Sheen says. Pride is at its peak when man cuts himself off from any relation to God and thus makes himself a god. Does that sound like our culture today? Yeah. He says, he elevates his relative character into an absolute, very much like a carbon copy calling itself the original. Jesse, does that sound like right what our culture is saying, that we are our own God? We make up the rules? And I'm just going to ask you this, Jess, as a comment. We're talking about all the upheavals that are going on in our country right now with all the looting and the police cars being burned up, things like that. Let me ask you, in 43 years, the pro-life movement, and I've been involved with it, so has Jesse, how many police cars, Jesse, have been burned up with the pro-lifers from 43 years? Give me an answer, my friend.
0.
Thank you. How many, how many lootings have gone on because of pro-lifers protesting the killing of unborn babies?
0.
Okay, Jess, can you please tell me what the difference is between the looters of today and the pro-life movement who are protesting the killing of unborn babies?
1 John 3:10, I think, answers your question. 1 John 3:10 says, you have sons of darkness or sons of Satan, and you have sons of God, sons of light. The pro-lifers are the sons of light. The anarchists, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and Occupy Wall Street's coming out of retirement, they're the sons of darkness.
Well, you gave a simple answer. You know why, Jesse?
That's right from the Bible.
Yeah, but you know what, Jess? It ain't that complicated. This is what I'm trying to communicate to our listeners and to the world, that Christianity is the answer to all the problems of the world. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. And I think that we have to be bold about just saying it. That's simple, Jess. And let me just mention, Jesse, after this show, I'm going out to the streets with a cameraman from one of the KTLA national TV stations. He's one of our monthly donors. We're going on the streets as Virgin Most Powerful. We're going to be talking to people about Jesus Christ and whether they have accepted Christ and whether they've accepted the church or what they think about all these crummy things that are going on. Do you think the 10 Commandments might help? That's what we're going to do at Virgin Most Powerful, because we have to proclaim the truth with charity and love. Jess, you have to leave. You're going to Texas. Tell us where you're heading for. What's going on?
I'm heading to a parish in Texas.
Okay.
Terry, I forget right now.
All right. Well, that's all right. I put Jesse on the spot. I do that often. Hey,
here's the last thing I want to mention is that September is the month of Our Lady of Sorrows.
Yes.
So this month, let's remember that Mary's suffering and her broken heart is something that we have to ask the entire month. Our Lady of Sorrows, pray for us. Remember, she watched her innocent son be ridiculed, misunderstood, and put to death on a cross. She's our model for uniting our suffering to Christ on the cross. And Mary also gave birth to the Catholic Church by standing by her son and accepting the will of the Father. So this month, take some time to contemplate and pray often the 7 sorrows of Mary.
Well said. Today's feast day is St. Peter Claver, priest and religious. He was a Jesuit missionary ministering to the African slaves as they arrived in South America. Jesse, he was able to baptize over 300,000 souls. What a man. Hey, when we come back, Steve Ray will be with us. CatholicConvert.com is his website. We're going to talk about the election. We're going to talk about Bishop Strickland, one of our bishops on Virgin Most Powerful Radio, what he's been saying. Jess, we wish you the best. Hey,
Thanks,
God
Terry.
bless you, brother. Don't turn that dial. We'll be right back with more to inspire you to fall deeper in love with Jesus Christ and his bride, the church, here at Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Help the Helpless, a Minnesota St. Paul nonprofit organization chaired by Father of Tyr and volunteers, is humbly asking you for your kind support to help the poor and the handicapped children in India and Ecuador. Through financial support from the Help of the Helpless benefactors, the children are provided with clothing, food, education, shelter, and the teachings of the Catholic Church. The mission is to help children thrive and become self-sufficient young adults leading productive lives. We also provide aid to poor families in Ecuador with food baskets, medicines, medical assistance, and help with funeral needs for the deceased. The work in India is done by Father Antonio's organization, St. Mary's. In Ecuador, the work is being done by the Servant Sisters of the Home of Mother. You can call us at 877-762-8857. To learn more, please visit our website, www.helpthehelpless.org. God bless you.
If you shop on Amazon.com, there's an easy way to support Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Just visit smile.amazon.com and type in Catholic Resource Center under the desired charity. Now, when you log into your Amazon account and purchase products, a portion of it will automatically go to support Virgin Most Powerful Radio at no cost to you. Thanks in advance for supporting CRC and VMPR, and may God richly bless you and your family.
This is Terry Barber. I want to thank you for your support here at Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Here's an easy way to do it. If you're going to sell or buy a house, call Real Estate for Life, 877-543-3871, because they're going to get you a Christ-centered agent to purchase your home or to sell your home. And at the close of escrow, a portion of his commission goes right back to Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Call 877-543-3871. Thank you so much for your support.
Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. To join the conversation, call 888-526-2151. Now, here's Terry and Jesse.
Welcome back. Jesse had to leave, but I got my friend Steve Ray on. But I want to just mention a little bit of a promotion piece. This Saturday, the 12th of September, Father Benedict Rochelle comes back from the dead. Father Benedict Rochelle is going to be on a recording, a video with Father Mitch Pacwa and also Dr. Scott Hahn in a debate with three prominent Protestants. I did this recording back in 1996. All three of them look pretty good. And they did a fantastic job defending the faith very, very politely but firmly. And it's going to be replayed on our app and on our YouTube channel Saturday from 9 to 5. I think it's going to be fantastic. If you want to join us, go to virginmostpowerfulradio.org or call 877-526-2151. Steve Ray, Catholic... Oh, Steve's not on yet. Okay. I'm going to have Steve Ray on just in a minute here at CatholicConvert.com. We're going to be talking a little bit about just formation for us on how do we vote. And now remember, there was a Johnson Amendment back in 1954 that said religious institutions can't comment on the policies of voting, who to vote for, what to say here and there. And President Trump said, no, I want the churches to get involved in the process. Now, I'm not going to tell you, I can't say who you can vote for, but what I can say is here are the Catholic principles that you should use to make your choice on who you're going to vote for in this November election. And it's critical because the life issue is obviously number one. We've got to protect. I mean, I'll just give you a quote from Bishop Strickland, who I just interview every Tuesday here on Virgin Most Powerful. He said, will I live? He's speaking for the unborn. He says, the only worry of an unborn child, no worries about food or clothing or housing or rights or opportunities or the environment or freedoms of education. If the unborn child is saying simply, will I live? If we end this life through abortion, all the other issues become meaningless. Bishop Strickland says they are dead. And I think that what Bishop Strickland has been constantly saying since day one is that we need to keep the unborn babies prominently placed when it comes to our election. And I happen to agree with the good bishop. I believe I have my good friend Steve Ray, CatholicConvert.com on. Steve, are you there?
I'm here and ready for duty, sir.
I love it. Ready for duty, sir. You know what, Steve? I just want to say this before I start talking to you about, I can't endorse Steve Ray more than I do. I really respect what this man has been doing for the last 25 years as a Catholic convert. And believe me, folks, I've met probably hundreds of Catholic converts, and I've actually seen a lot of these guys doing great work, but I can't think of anybody better. And I really sincerely mean this. And believe me, a guy like me saying this, I mean it. Steve Ray does more to help promote the Catholic faith than anybody I know as a Catholic convert. And believe me, I know a lot of them. So, Steve, before we get started, can you give us an update on what's going on with your apostolic work and taking people all over the world to help promote the faith? Give us an update, please.
Trying to wipe the blush off my face, sir.
Get out of here. No, it's just the truth, brother. And that's what sets us free. No,
Thank you.
Steve, can I just say something, brother? What you see. The thing I love about you is what you see is what you get. You don't put on the dog. You ask a question to Steve Ray, he gives you an answer. It might not be what you want to hear, but he's going to give you straight up the talk. And I really appreciate that. So let's hear about what's going on in your ministry in the last, 7 months?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. One of the reasons I can say what's on my heart and mind is because I don't work for anyone.
Yep.
And therefore I'm not afraid of getting fired or reprimanded or having to fit some kind of a organizational culture or idea. I can just be a Catholic and speak what I believe is true and not be worried about any repercussions from it. So that's always a blessed position to be in. Second of all, we have, with this whole virus hysteria going on,
yes,
we had lost 13 months of work. That's 25 buses of pilgrims total. But we're starting up again. We decided to be safe. Because people are still hesitant to travel and countries are still not open. So we made our first trip back to Israel on April 7. We got a great priest going with us, and that bus is already almost sold out, just so people know. But we also have, we're going to try and fit more on it if you want to go, but also we have a lot of seats on April 28th, and in September, and in November, and in December. Those are all to Israel to see the Holy Land. We also have next year in May the Lourdes and Fatima trip. We're going to see all these shrines of Mary in Portugal, Spain, and France. We're going to visit Loyola and spend 3 days in Lourdes, and so that's in May. We're doing a St. Paul cruise. We're going to hit 10 biblical sites through Greece and Turkey and the Mediterranean Sea.
Wow.
And I'm taking all my older grandkids. So it is now. We're going to have 13 of my grandkids coming with us. That's in October, and then the other one is in August. We're going to Ireland.
Wow.
We're going to see the Irish islands. So check my website, CatholicConvert.com. Go to the top pilgrimage bar up there. Just click on that, and you'll see all our upcoming trips for next year. And in the meantime, we're just enjoying a little bit of retirement and spending time with our 18 grandkids. We're down here in South Carolina with my daughter, who just had a brand new little baby.
Awesome.
And so we're helping her out with her family for a week while her husband's working every day.
Good job, Grandpa. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Steve Ray, we talked a little bit about this show, calling it how should a Catholic vote in 2020? Now, I mentioned that we sent you an article about Father James Altman, pastor of St. James, the Less Catholic Church. He lashed out about some of our leadership in saying we need to really stand up and call things for what they are regarding a certain party, which is the Democrats, and he really just had some harsh words for them. And Bishop Strickland of Tyler, Texas, who's one of our shows here at Virgin Most Powerful, came out and said, I want to really support Father Altman and others who speak the truth in charity like he did. And it really got a lot of a hate mail over it. And people were saying, well, how could he say that? I mean, give me a break. This priest is out of line. But it seems to me, Steve Ray, that in 1954, when the Johnson Amendment went through and said we're not supposed to speak, those days are over. President Trump has wanting us to get involved in this election and speak our mind. So I want to hear from you. Can you give me a little bit of what you've been thinking about when it comes to the voting as a Catholic in the next presidential election?
Yes, first of all, about Father Altman's homily or his talk, it's on my website.
That's endorsed.
If you go to CatholicConvert.com, I've got to just click on the link. You have to scroll down a bit because a lot's happening on my blog right now. Mm-hmm. And I put up that homily or his talk or his response. And then a guy named Paul came after me for putting that up there and against the good priest. And I responded to him, and I think people will enjoy my response. It's a little feisty, and it kind of summarizes what we're going to be saying here today.
Sure.
So if you want to see that summary of my response to this critique or criticism of Father Altman, and also I put up Father Pavone's press release on the election with some of the main key points, and that's all on my blog today.
Good.
So first of all, let's deal with the lie that since we're Catholics, we are not allowed to be involved in politics, whether we're lay people or clergy. That is not true.
Amen.
We are American citizens. We are free American citizens. Our country is a democratic republic, and because we are in a democratic republic, it is our responsibility to be involved in politics. We are required to vote, to care, to be involved. That is the nature of our government. It doesn't matter whether we're an atheist or a Catholic or clergy. All of us are involved in politics, whether we like it or not. And we are not only allowed to speak out on our position and our issues, but we are required by our duty of our country to do so. There are limitations at what a priest can say during a homily. He is not, because of the tax-free status and so on, and he is not allowed to endorse a candidate. He cannot stand up and say, I want all of you to vote for Donald Trump. That it was in a homily or during the service, a pastor, a priest, that is a restriction on them. But on his free time and during his free time, or he can absolutely promote it, who he's voting for. Like Father Pavone has put out that he's voting for Trump, and other priests are doing the same. That is their responsibility, actually, to instruct and to help, and to, as a citizen, to be involved in the process. And also that when it comes to the issues, we do not have a more black and white or demarcation in the two different positions this time. And a priest has an obligation, I think, to declare what the two different positions are and what we as Catholics can and cannot endorse and vote for. So, and second of all, let's also say that it's a very sad situation that we're in today, where we have bishops and clerics who are shouting back and forth at each other with very different opinions. And Paul says in 1 Corinthians 14:7, he said, if the bugle gives an indistinct or confusing sound, who will get ready for battle? If the Catholic Church, its spokesman and its voices are saying different things, then it's a confusion to the faithful on the street and in the pew. And that is a big disaster today. We have Catholics who I believe are being very unfaithful to the teachings of the Church for 2,000 years and what the United States Catholic Council of Bishops has said, and I put that on my blog too, a little bit of that, what they say about the election this time. So we have, first of all, the right and the obligation, clergy and laity alike, to be involved in the process and to speak our mind. And second of all, it's a very sad state of affairs that the Catholic voices, I'm not saying the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church is very clear on what we should do, but the Catholic voices out there claiming to speak for the Catholic Church, many of them are indistinct bugles that are sounding out a cacophony of indistinct and terrible sounding music. And it's really disrupting to people's brains. So I think that we need to really be clear about where we stand, and that's part of the reason we're doing this radio show today.
Absolutely. Just the facts, ma'am. And I always tell people that, but also just go to the party's platform, whether it's the Democratic platform or the Republican one. When you just read it, it can't be any clearer. And also, Bishop Fulton J. Sheen had something to say 70 years ago, and it's very appropriate for us today. He said, when a democracy loses its moral sense, it can vote itself right out of democracy. Now, this was written 70 years ago, but the wisdom is timeless. And here's the message. Let's wake up to this, because a loss of moral sense is the worst plague we could face. You get that? That's Fulton Sheen 70 years ago. You're listening to the Terry and Jesse Show. Jess is out. Steve Ray, CatholicConvert.com. Go to his website. Lots of good things over there. When we come back, we're going to continue to talk about the election and how we Catholics view our voting and why we have to vote, as Fulton Sheen just said, with the moral compass. Because without that, we're just, like secular people, and we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that God is going to bless us as we put out our vote as a responsible Catholic, and we do have that moral obligation to do that. So those who say they don't want to vote, that's not what the Catholic Church says. The Catechism makes it clear we should be voting. And how do we vote? With a Catholic moral conscience. We're not right versus left. We're right versus wrong. We'll be right back with Steve Ray from CatholicConvert.com on the Terry and Jesse Show. We try to help you become a better Christian, better Catholic, and we want to introduce you to the person of Christ and his bride, the Church, on Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Don't turn that dial. We'll be right back.
Join VMPR live on YouTube September 12th, 2020 for our latest free conference, The Ultimate Challenge. This exclusive virtual event will feature a brand new talk from Jesse Romero, How Apologetics Brought Me Back to Faith, plus never-before broadcast video presentations from Father Mitch Pacwa, Dr. Scott Hahn, and the late, great Father Benedict Groeschel.
And the question is, how do you understand the words of Jesus? This is my body. Not this bread is my body, but this is my body. This is the cup of my blood. And may I state categorically and emphatically that you cannot understand it. It is a mystery.
Go to vmpr.org to register now and get ready to face the ultimate challenge.
Absolutely mysterious.
Jesus said to the apostles in Luke chapter 10, "Whoever listens to you listens to me, and whoever rejects you rejects me." According to St. Boniface, In her voyage across the ocean of this world, the church is like a great ship being pounded by the waves of life's different stresses. Our duty is not to abandon ship, but to keep her on course. May our Lord help us remain ever faithful to His church, to aid and defend her.
This is Terry Barber. I want to thank you for your support here at Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Here's an easy way to do it. If you're going to sell or buy a house, call Real Estate for Life, 877-543-3871, because they're going to get you a Christ-centered agent to purchase your home or to sell your home. And at the close of escrow, a portion of his commission goes right back to Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Call 877-543-3871. Thank you so much for your support.
Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. To join the conversation, call 888-526-2151. Now, here's Terry and Jesse.
Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. I like to say it always because it's true. We're too blessed to be stressed. We're too anointed to be disappointed. And if hope was money, we'd be billionaires. Why do we have hope in a culture right now that's falling apart? Because our hope is not in governments. It's in Jesus Christ. And I think that's important to make that distinction. We have our good friend Steve Ray from CatholicConvert.com, and we're talking about how a Catholic should vote with its moral conscience. And I wanted to recommend Father Frank Pavone's website, Priest for Life. There's an open letter to the United States Catholic hierarchy, and he makes a very, very good point on laying out why we need to communicate to our flock what's going on in the election and what parties have what principles. And he quotes St. John Paul II calling governments that legalize abortion, he calls it a tyrant state. So, again, for example, we had a president before this one right now who was for abortion. Then that would be a tyrant state. And the church is not for that, obviously. So I'm making the point, and just my strong point, that St. John Paul II is saying you can't be voting for a president that is for abortion because he's calling it a tyrant state. Now, Steve Ray, you've done some research. You've got some things on your website regarding the election. Can you share a little bit more about your thoughts on how we Catholics need to take action on this issue of abortion and other issues that are surrounding the election?
Well, a lot of the discussion, Terry, is on can you be a one-issue voter?
Yeah, that's true.
It
People ask that.
Be a one-issue voter because there are other issues as well, like taking care of the poor and racial issues and so on. So how can you just say abortion's the only matter and you're going to vote only on that? Well, I would say the reason is, and I would find that the United States bishops agree with me, and when they in their new document that they have out called "Forming Consciences for Faithful Citizenship," Ascension Press also has put out a very good one, Ascension Press, if you get a hold of that one. And in this one, even though there's a lot of liberal bishops in there, and there's a couple that wanted to jettison some of the wording, it's very strong that the issue of abortion is primary, and that one cannot vote not vote for because they're then complicit in the act of abortion if we vote for someone that way. And I should say that is one issue. I am not a one-issue voter. However, that is the most primary issue.
Of course it is.
Because if you take a rocket ship, and let's say we're going to go to Mars, and we're talking now about going to Mars and putting men on Mars. If you send that rocket ship off towards Mars and it's 0.00000.1% off its trajectory, it's never going to get to Mars. It's going to crash into outer space. If you start with a bad view of human life, that is primary. Human life, there's nothing, everything else is, governments are there for human life. That's bottom line. That's what it's all about, is to maintain human life. If you start out with a bad trajectory and it's off, it's never going to reach its goal of freedom, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, family, all the things, happiness that we want. And what's happening is that this is the primary issue, and so I would be a one-issue voter. However, we are not asked to do that. I'm going to give you a list of why I'm voting the way I'm voting.
Sure.
You got just a moment.
Yeah, I'm on
This
here.
is why I'm voting for Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows, because there's only two parties and they're so far apart that it's obvious if I'm voting for these things who I'm voting for. But I'm voting against the whole abortion platform, and I'm voting for life from conception to the natural death. I'm voting against the whole LGBT agenda, which is trying to force down my throat a whole different way of educating our children, that gender bending, you can be whatever gender you want, 75 different options. I'm voting against that. So now we already got two issues. Now a third one is I'm voting against socialism. Socialism is un-Catholic also. We are to have private property and to be in charge of our own wealth and to have borders for our country. So I'm voting against socialism, which is always a disaster and removes freedom and dignity of human beings. I'm voting for the Second Amendment, for borders for our country, for a strong military to protect our country, for supporting blacks. President Trump has done more for the black community, not only with employment, but with supporting black colleges and other things. The whole legal reform of prisons and so on has done that. School choice I'm voting for. I'm voting for religious freedom, which the Republican Party and especially Trump has done more for religious freedom than any other. For free market economics, where we can go out and build our own business and take care of our own selves and our families. I'm voting for the Middle East. He just made the most historic peace agreement between the UAE and Israel, and more are coming, and he's taken our troops out of unnecessary wars, killing our men in unnecessary wars. The other, Obama, Biden, were starting wars everywhere. It's Obama, and Trump has been pulling out of them, saving our young men. So there's pro-life right there if you want, and the freedom of Israel to exist as a country. I'm voting for high employment, low unemployment, and ending all these wars. Now, am I a one-issue voter? No, I'm not a one-issue voter. I just listed about 10 or 12. So I think that we need to be very careful how we vote, because this election is very crucial. And I have 18 grandchildren now, so I'm in the game.
Well, Steve, that well said, and you're entitled to that. And I would just say, look at the facts and look at it, because here's what I think is important also. We have some people who say, well, I just don't want to vote. Well, St. Pope Felix III in 475, see if this relates to our situation. I think it does. He said, not to oppose error is to approve it. Not to defend truth is to suppress it. And indeed, to neglect to confound evil men when we can do it is no less a sin than to encourage them. And I'm going to say it because this is my personal opinion, okay? And I'm just giving you my thought. I said, I think abortion is evil because the church teaches that it is evil. And those who promote it participate in an evil act. And so I can't support that as a Catholic. Now, I can tell you that where I'm going to be voting for is the pro-life candidate, okay? And the guy that has I'm a Second Amendment man. I like securing our borders. I'm for a strong military because I think it's important that you can stop wars with strength, overwhelming strength. So I think it's important that we have a strong military to keep us safe, because I'm interested in my grandchildren and the future children of our country. So these are just things for me. Now, if you have your own ideas on these issues, I would say this: prioritize them and then look at all the issues and then let the lever go. Who am I going to vote for? But here's my point. If you vote and you participate in voting for a candidate who's going to be killing unborn children, I said this to Bishop Strickland yesterday, and I said, Bishop Strickland, aren't you participating in a sin because you're giving the person who you're voting for the right to kill unborn babies, and you're participating by acting in a way that you support that? And he said, absolutely. And I just happen to agree with that, but I think it's common sense that we do vote pro-life and that we do vote with our moral conscience, because so many times I've heard people vote with their pocketbook, Steve Ray. In other words, this one government party is going to give me free money. In other words, I don't even have to go to work because they're going to give out a check each month, $1,000, $2,000 a month. Now, Steve, I don't know about you, but I think that corrupts people when you give them something for nothing. Well, what's your take on that?
Not only that, but the money has to come from somewhere, and it comes out of my pocket, and I go out and work. to support my own family, and I want to be able to give to the poor and to help needy people. But when there's so much is taken out, and there's already talk that if the Democratic Party comes in, taxes are going to be raised to 90 to 95% on people who are out there hiring and employing people. Not only, you said also, Terry, that voting for someone who is for abortion is wrong. But not only is that going to happen, but if Biden gets in there, he already says that he is going to put it back into the tax roll. In other words, I'm going to be paying for abortions. Not only am I allowing them, but through my taxes, I will be paying for them. Not only us, but they're going to export abortion around the world. That's part of the Democratic platform. And they're going to force the poor little sisters of the poor to also be paying for abortions and all of these kind of medical procedures. So, yes, it's time for us to take a list of exactly what we're doing. I want to bring out one other misunderstanding that the Democrats and the liberals often use, because it's been thrown at me quite a bit in the last even few days, is that we are supposed to practice the mercy for the dead. You know, I forget, just skipped my mind. The virtues of caring for the sick, caring for burying the dead.
You're talking about corporal works of mercy.
Yes, corporal works of mercy. It just slipped my mind here.
Yeah.
Corporal works of mercy. And that's the Democrats want to do that. And if you don't vote for them, then you're contrary to Catholic, because you are denying that people get the corporal works of mercy. I would say this to that. Jesus and the church is not imposing that. He's imposing that on me as a person. Those corporal works of mercy are for me to do, for the church to do, for private individuals to do. They are not mandates for the government to do. The government, of course, should be doing things of mercy, but it's us as individuals it's incumbent on us to do those things. You don't see anywhere where Jesus tells the Roman Empire that they should start taking care of the sick and the poor, burying the dead. No, when he says those things, and the commandments, when he does the Sermon on the Mount, those mandates are not given to the government. They're not given to the state. They're giving to individuals. He is speaking to the Jewish people, how they are to conduct themselves with one another. We are to feed the poor. If you don't feed the poor, then you're not going to heaven, is what it is. But he doesn't say vote for a government that's going to feed the poor so you don't have to.
Exactly.
Many people are using the government as a substitute for their own actions. If the government is taking care of these poor people and doing that, then I'm not obligated to. I don't have to pay for it because I already did it through my taxes. But the government is very inefficient in the way it does things, even under a good administration. Money is wasted hand and foot. It is not a good idea for them to take our money to feed the poor, but it is our job in local governments, families, churches, local governments. We know much better how to feed the poor in our area, to bury the dead, to care for all of the others, clothe the naked, and so on. It's not the job of the federal government to do that, nor does God mandate that the federal government do that. He mandates that we as individuals do. The Democrats are saying that we should vote for a government who is going to do all of those things.
Yes.
And to me, that right there smacks of being unbiblical and uncatholic.
When we come back, I want to bring up the Supreme Court justices, the two that probably will be needed to be picked in the next 4 years, and also the federal judges. Why is that important that the president will be picking those federal judges? We'll be back with Terry and Jesse Show on Virgin Most Powerful Radio.
Jesus said in Luke 17, "When you have done all that you were ordered to do, say, 'We are unprofitable servants. We have only done our duty.'" According to St. John of the Cross, God is pleased with the little deeds we do in secret. He takes more pleasure in these than in a multitude of grand works that we may do out of the desire to be seen by others. May God help us to do the things that please Him, and not just to appear great in the eyes of others.
How does the baby move in your tummy? How does the baby eat? Can the baby hear me? How did the baby get in there?
Wow, a pregnancy can sure generate a lot of questions. But what's important is that a baby is a baby, inside and out of the womb. Not just after birth, but 9 months before. At conception.
That's right. Every baby is a miracle. Hello, my name is Marianne Kuharski. I'm the director of Pro-Life Across America. If you know someone who is pregnant or in need of alternatives or assistance or would like to support the work of Pro-Life Across America, please visit our website at prolifeacrossamerica.org, or better yet, simply dial pound 250 on your cell phone and say the keyword pro-life. Pro-Life Across America is non-political and totally educational.
A baby's heart is beating 18 days from conception.
Pro-life across America, the Billboard people.
This is Terry Barber. I want to thank you for your support here at Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Here's an easy way to do it. If you're going to sell or buy a house, call Real Estate for Life, 877-543-3871, because they're going to get you a Christ-centered agent to purchase your home or to sell your home. And at the close of escrow, a portion of his commission goes right back to Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Call 877-543-3871. Thank you so much for your support.
Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. To join the conversation, call 888-526-2151. Now, here's Terry and Jesse.
Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. Steve Ray is my guest, filling in for Jess right now. I have a couple questions for Steve Ray regarding Supreme Court justices that are going to be picked probably in the next 4 years, at least 2, and also the federal judges. But more importantly, Steve, the other question I'm hitting you with is what we call religious freedom. In other words, the idea the rights of the church and the common good are under attack in a very powerful way by Democratic Party. And look at all the cities. Like I live in Los Angeles in California, and our Democratic governor has been very rigid regarding religious freedom, like going to church and having that freedom. And I've noticed, Steve, and correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the cities where these restrictions are done, they're done by the Democrats. And so if I'm onto something, let me know.
I'm also in a Democratic state of Michigan, which is very much the same way. Okay. And it's amazing to me that there are protests allowed in the streets and parks where people are very close proximity, and nobody stops them from doing that. But I'm not allowed to go into church with more than 25 people. Yeah. So there's something not right with this. Why is it that protesters can go out and protest? And I know recently in California there was a park where a lot of Christians were going to come and stay social distancing with masks to pray and worship God in a park because they're not allowed to go into their churches. Right. But all over California, you have large masses of people in protests and looting and violence. That's right. And nobody stops them or tells them they can't. So there's a prejudice against Christianity, or maybe they're afraid of the mobs, and they're not afraid because we're law-abiding people. Yep. About the courts. Yes. The real legacy of a president is not what his position is on war or abortion or religious freedom or any other issue. The real legacy of a president is who he picks for the Supreme Court and for other federal courts. Yep. Because those Supreme Court justices will be there long after President Trump or President Biden, if he ever would get elected, after they're dead and gone. There are still members of the court who are there from presidents bygone in the past. So, and it's like that in the church as well. The Pope's real legacy is not encyclicals that he writes or things that he says or teaches. It is who he appoints to be bishops and cardinals around the world, because they are going to be bishops and cardinals influencing the church long after Pope Francis is gone, even down to 1 or 2 or 3 more popes who knows how long they'll last. Right. So the real legacy as a pope is of the bishops and cardinals that he appoints. The real legacy of a president, which has the most impact upon a country, is who is put into the Supreme Court. And already Donald Trump has picked over 200. That's right, 200. Replaced and placed over 200 federal judges and appeals courts and so on who are basically pro-life, pro-freedom, going to defend religious liberty in America and a lot of the other things that we hold dear. And the Supreme Court, as you know, Justice Ginsburg is very old and fragile and has been pulled out recently for many different illnesses. There is a likelihood that up to maybe 2 justices will be replaced in the next presidency. And we know who's going to be in there if Biden wins, and we know what kind of justices are going to be in there if Trump wins. And that is really, of all the things we're talking about today, Terry, that is the most important issue in this election.
Well, President Trump has made it clear that he's going to put pro-life justices, and Mr. Biden made it very clear that he wants to continue to protect Roe versus Wade in killing unborn babies, and he'll do everything in his power. And also, Steve, I have to say this too. Both parties have made it clear, both men, regarding Planned Parenthood, who I think is public enemy number one. President Trump said, I'm going to stop funding for Planned Parenthood. And Mr. Biden said, I'm going to restore full funding, not only for our country, but Steve, Mr. Biden made it clear that we're going to be paying for abortions, not just in this country, but worldwide, like Obama did.
Exactly.
And so if you want to be part of that, then that's who you vote for. I don't personally want to be part of that type of policy. That's my take, Steve.
I agree. And when it comes to the pro-life issue and the religious freedom and issues so on, President Trump is not a Catholic. And I've heard people say, how can you vote for a man who's not a Catholic and who has had shady dealings in his past? Now, those are all questionable in their allegations.
Right.
But that he has not had the most moral life in the past, and he's not a Catholic, so why would you vote for him? But I would say that President Trump is conducting himself more as a Catholic than Pelosi and Biden, who claim to be Catholic, but I think who transgress many of the tenets of the church. If I was going to have brain surgery tomorrow, Terry, and I had the choice of a very lousy Catholic brain surgeon who's known to have killed several people in surgery, or a very, very good atheist.
Get the atheist in there, dude.
Surgeon. Who am I going to take? I would choose the very excellent, good track record atheist to do my brain surgery than a really lousy Catholic who has killed people doing brain surgery. I'm not voting for Donald Trump because he's the most moral man in the country, or because he's the most handsome, or because of other issues. I'm voting for him because he is taking the correct stand on the moral issues. And here I have a so-called Catholic Speaker of the House and a so-called Catholic presidential nominee of Biden, and I find myself voting for the very good brain doctor who's an atheist rather than the Catholic who's a lousy brain surgeon. So this is my way. We're not electing Donald Trump because he is the handsomest or he's Catholic. I'm hiring him because he's a businessman and he knows how to get things done.
And let me just say it this way as an analogy of a football game, because we all understand first downs and touchdowns. There's no perfect candidate. Jesus or Mary or St. Joseph, they're not running. We have men and women who are feeble. So what do? We look at who's going to move the football towards the first down or the touchdown. And that's how I vote, because there's no perfect person in the presidency. So I would look at that and ask you to also look at it as who's closer to my Catholic morals and my values when I go to vote, because that's what I think our Lord is going to ask us, Steve, when we die, and we will. Last time I looked, nobody gets out alive. I'm sure I'm going to be held responsible for who I vote for as any moral question or anything I do in my life. It's all going to come out. Steve, let me just ask you before we have to let you go. I really want to promote something that you're doing for the last 25 years, so I'm going to shift gears on you. I want to ask you to tell people some of the testimonies of people who have gone to the Holy Land, to Marian shrines, and their lives have been changed for the better. Can you share a couple stories with us, and then tell us how people can sign up for your events that you're putting on in the future, 2021? Go ahead, Steve.
Well, thank you very much. I love to share stories like this because to see people's lives change is one of the things I love to see most. And I'll just give I'll give you two examples on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land.
Sure.
A lady came who didn't say anything on the whole trip. She sat by herself, ate by herself, didn't talk to anybody. And I just said, well, I'm going to leave her alone because obviously she doesn't want to be bothered. But she went to all the masses, did everything. And at the last day before she got on the bus, she came up and she said, I want to tell you my story. And I said, wow, I mean, I didn't even talk to the lady once, and now she wants to tell me her story before she gets on the bus to go to the airport back home. She said, I was going to commit suicide, and my brother told me that he wanted me to go on one of your pilgrimages and that he would pay for it, and that to please wait to commit suicide until you get home. Go to Steve Ray's pilgrimage first. She said, I want you to know that I am an alcoholic. I've destroyed my family. I'm into drugs. Everything I could do, I've destroyed it all. I was going to kill myself. She said, but I've been healed on this trip. I have no desire for alcohol or drugs. I can't wait to go back and get involved in the church, put my family back together, and thank you for what you did on this pilgrimage. Terry, you have no idea. I just about fell over backwards.
I would imagine you would.
Another guy came and he said, I'm a reluctant pilgrim. My wife promised to go fishing for a week with me last year, and so the penalty was I had to come with her on this trip. And I said, that's all right. The land will touch you. Second day into the trip, we were at Capernaum, where Jesus said, eat my flesh and drink my blood. And I gave a talk on that, and then we had Mass, right where Jesus said those words. After the Mass, he came up to me with tears running down his eyes. He said, Steve, I want you to know I'm not a reluctant pilgrim anymore. I just realized where I am.
Wow.
And we've had so many stories of healings and miracles on the pilgrimages, not only to the Holy Land, but other places as well, that it just gives my wife and I great joy to do this, because I don't think that there's a better way to do really an intense evangelism than to get people out of their comfort zone, get them into the land of the Bible, which is already blessed because Jesus and Mary walked there. It's the footprints of God. And it's holy ground, and it does sacramentally have an effect on you when you walk there. And so it's a great joy. So we have trips coming up next year. Go to my website, CatholicConvert.com, up at the top pilgrimage banner, and you can see we have 8 trips going next year.
Great.
And we already, buses are starting to fill, so we're very optimistic. And I appreciate that. And keep track of all that we're doing on our website at CatholicConvert.com. I have a very feisty and informative and fun blog as well. I do a lot of fun stuff on the blog, not just politics and religion and theology. Right. We do a lot of fun things, too.
Oh, yeah. Steve, the only thing I would add is one of the Holy Fathers said that going to the Holy Land is like a fifth gospel. Can you comment on that? Who said that?
It is. That was Paul VI.
That's right, Paul VI.
He was the first successor of Peter, the first successor of Peter to visit the Holy Land since Peter.
That's right.
There had been 2,000 years. No pope had been there. Paul VI came and he said, this is the fifth gospel, gospel number 5. If you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, this gospel, the Holy Land, will make the others pop out in Technicolor widescreen. And so it really is a significant trip and an investment. And I also say that a lot of people just pay $100,000 to send their kids off to university where they're going to lose their faith.
Yeah.
I would suggest paying $5,000, send them to the Holy Land with us, and they'll never lose their faith because they'll know it's true.
Well, Steve, one last thing about your trips. On your website, you have video footage of people actually visiting the sites, and I think it's important for folks to see that because that really tells you what you're going to experience when you go on these trips. Do you still have those videos that they can watch?
For the last 10 years, we've done at least 10 trips a year. I have all of them up on my website, 2 hours of video for every trip, all narrated with music and footage and everything. So you just go to my website, go to past pilgrimages, and you can check anyone to Lourdes and Fatima, Ireland, Poland, Israel, Egypt, any of those, and you can watch 2-hour whole videos. So if you can't afford to go on a trip, you don't have the time or the money or the health, you can do a virtual pilgrimage. Go on my website and you can take 2 hours. We'll take you through the whole Holy Land. You can partake in all the events and the masses that we did, or whether it's Lourdes and Fatima or wherever. So
awesome.
God bless you, Terry.
Hey, Steve, last question, buddy. What state should we be living in?
We should be living in the United States right now because we need your vote.
That's the greatest answer he's come up with. Actually, it's the state of grace. But Steve Ray, I know we're giving you a hard. I have fun with you. Thanks again for joining us here on Virgin Most Powerful. May God bless you and your extended family. God love you. Thanks again, folks. When we come back, we've got another show coming up. Dr. Sandoval's coming. No, actually, Matt Arnold. Excuse me. This is Wednesday. I'm mixed up with the holiday. Matt Arnold will be up next. Stay tuned for his show. And I want to thank all of you who have been supporting Virgin Most Powerful. Don't forget, we also have a retreat coming up Days of Recollection on September 14th, 15th, and 16th here at the Sacred Heart Chapel on the work of the Holy Angels. The theme, St. Michael the Archangel. May God richly bless you and your family. And thanks again for all you do for Virgin Most Powerful. Go to our website, virginmostpowerfulradio.org. God love you. Up next, Matt Arnold.
Saint Faustina's Prayer for Priests. O my Jesus, I beg thee on behalf of the whole Church, grant it love and the light of thy Spirit, and give power to the words of priests, so that hardened hearts might be brought to repentance and return to thee, O Lord. Lord, give us holy priests. Thou thyself maintain them in holiness. O divine and great High Priest, may the power of thy mercy accompany them everywhere and protect them from the devil's traps and snares, which are continually being set for the souls of priests. May the power of thy mercy, O Lord, shatter and bring to naught all that might tarnish the sanctity of priests. For thou canst do all things. Amen. Virgin most powerful, pray for us.